The loss of America's AAA credit score sparked panicked sell-offs on global markets after several days of concern over whether France would retain its higher status. Rating giants have, for now, reaffirmed its top billing Wednesday. But investors remain unconvinced as the country's finances are solid enough. Problems in the Eurozone will be up for discussion too by the French and German leaders next week. Let's bring in Max Keiser, shall we? Always good to see him. Financial advisor and host, of course, of the Keiser Report here on RT. Let's get him to shed some light on it. Evening, Max. So let's look at the French economy. You are from the inside. You're there in Paris now. Do you think it is headed for a downgrade? What's the picture?
Well, the French banks are loaded with toxic derivatives that were sold to them by American investment banks, and the American investment banks plus the rating agencies plus the hedge funds are now attacking these French banks. They know where the bodies are buried, and they're using the weapons that they sold them to attack them. And going back to the S&P downgrade, just before the S&P downgrade of U.S. debt, I told you point blank with certainty that the rating would be downgraded. Now I'm telling you that the rating will be downgraded again because this is part of a new era on Wall Street where they go after sovereign debt, and the hedge funds and the rating agencies and Wall Street banks work together now to destabilize the sovereign debt of these countries. Because remember, the hedge funds, Wall Street, working with the rating agencies, are bigger than any of these countries.
It's been such a volatile week, Max. I mean, is any of this likely to settle down soon? Judging by what you're saying there, I guess the answer is no.
Absolutely not. The volatility was the goal. As I explained before the ratings downgrade, by downgrading, you create volatility. Today, the Financial Times on the front page reported that the derivatives volume this week is exploding. It's higher than at any week in history. That is making a lot of people on Wall Street and in the City of London very, very rich. That's the goal. So they will continue to downgrade, continue to stoke volatility, and continue to milk the system and extract wealth.
We'll come back to America in a minute. I just want to focus again back on France. French bank Société Générale has been battling rumours for a while now that it's up for a government bailout. Can you shed any light on that? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, Société Générale and BNP and Crédit Agricole are insolvent. Their balance sheets are 6 to 10 times bigger in terms of the debt that they carry than they could possibly service. But it's carried on the shadow banking system. They don't report this debt, but the insiders around the world who wield the weapons of mass financial destruction know where the bodies are buried, and they're attacking them to force these unrealized debts onto their balance sheet, to force these companies into delinquency, into a foreclosure, because they're going to reap, again, billions of dollars attacking these banks. These banks are insolvent, Kevin. Société Générale is an insolvent institution. So is BNP. They can't possibly meet their credit demands. Absolutely not.
I mean, it's a grim outlook no matter how you look at it. These austerity measures that are being forced on people in Europe and the US are inevitably, of course, going to hit the most vulnerable members of society, thinking in the US, Medicare, Medicaid. There are also fears, of course, these cuts could slow growth and bring about another wave, a double-dip recession, as you've been banging on about for a long time. Is there anything positive to come out of this approach, this austerity approach?
Gold and silver. Gold making new all-time highs. But, Kevin, you have to understand, this is a war. This is the World War III. This is the new war using financial derivatives. And the objective is to preserve the speculative rates given to the Wall Street bankers of 0%. You know, Ben Bernanke this week came out and said we're going to keep interest rates at 0 for another 2 years or indefinitely. That doesn't help workers. That doesn't help savers. That doesn't help society. That only helps speculators. That only helps the plunderers. And if you look at those riots in London, all those plunderers on the street were doing is mimicking the plundering at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. I'm surprised Goldman Sachs is not down on the street trying to recruit these kids to work at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. They're excellent plunderers. Why don't they work on Wall Street? They've proven themselves. Let's give them a job.
Back to that Fed announcement again. Are you at all surprised that the PR wasn't any better? That it was so downbeat?
Which announcement is this, Kevin?
The announcement earlier on in the week. Ben Bernanke seemed really quite downbeat about the future of the economy. Did you think he'd be upping it more as PR, if nothing else?
No, no, Kevin. You have to understand that Bernanke's job is to be down in the mouth and say that he must keep interest rates low. That's his job. And to determine where interest rates should be, he looks at a series of statistics that do not include energy or food. So he does not see inflation. He only looks at things that are falling in price, and therefore he concludes that there's deflation and that interest rates must be near zero. And in Switzerland now, interest rates have gone negative. They're charging people to keep money at the bank. Also in the United States, they're introducing negative interest rates. This will be, my prediction will be, this will be widespread all over the G20 nations, negative interest rates, forcing people into these speculative bets. Which, of course, benefit the terrorists, the financial terrorists, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Barclays, the central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, the rating agencies, the hedge funds. This is a war.
Max Keiser, thank you. A grim picture you paint, as ever. Financial advisor and a host, of course, of the Keiser Report. That is on air as well here on RT. Don't forget, keep up to date with all the latest from Max.